And this is my second time in this forum, and I very much enjoyed the first time, because I think the topic at hand is actually a very important one. Because as leaders, we make business judgment every day. And they're not always good. And sometimes we also make bad judgment. I think that's the nature of making judgments. Sometimes we don't have all the facts when we have to make a business judgment or a business decision. We might not have enough time. So it's a thing we have to do almost every day, every week, but it's not something that is very easy to do. A lot of the business judgments, they are very much everyday things or very small decisions we have to make. And you could say that the small everyday close to how our operations are run, those are the easy ones to make. But the more difficult ones are decisions that you have to make for the future. Where are we heading? What innovation should we kind of invest in? What business models should we kind of explore? And that is really difficult because you shouldn't only collect facts about the here and now, but you also have to start predicting what the future will be. Because only if you have some of the facts, the assumptions, the thinking, then you can make a good assumption. So also business judgment is very much about doing homework up front, collecting information, collecting facts, collecting assumptions, try to have a 360 view. How do I collect information that helps me predict the future? And in a current volatile world that we're living in, I think that's even more difficult. Who had seen the pandemic of COVID coming? So sometimes you might make an investment and then you have to tweet later because you think, hey, this is not actually the way that we are moving forward. And that then also brings me to, if you make judgments and you make decisions, you also need to have an element of self-reflection. You also need to have an element of being able to challenge yourself. Because it might be that a decision you made last year, a year down the road, you said, we should invest in this technology. But a year down the road, the technology doesn't look so promising. And then as a leader, you also have to admit that maybe it wasn't the best business judgment. It wasn't the right decision. And you might have to kill the project rather than go on, invest a lot of money and invest the time. So I think as a leader, you also need to be humble. You need to look at yourself and also keep the reality around you by saying, hey, should I change my decision? Should I change my judgment? And one of my motto is better a bad decision than no decision. Because if you don't decide at all, or you don't move forward, you also don't learn. But what you should do, if you make the wrong judgment, you then have to be open and honest enough with yourself and with your teams and say, hey, that was wrong. Let's go on another part. Let's stop. Let's move to another track, or let's invest in another technology or in another business model. So I think it's also important that you realize you are not all-knowing. Your judgments, your decision-making, they might change. And it's not a shame to come back and say, yeah, that was wrong. Let's now change the trajectory and let's go another way. Because if you're not willing to do that, yeah, then you can go on the wrong path.